Alabama and Nick Saban are on a revenge tour, and I'm really excited to see what they have in store for 2023. We're going to take a look at the 10 players that are going to lead the charge for Saban's team, a team that has missed winning a national championship for 2 years in a row, and that's the longest streak Nick Saban's ever had. So we'll take a look at what makes them really good, what brings them back to the top. And we'll start with the quarterback position. Jalen Milroe has an opportunity to be the next starting quarterback for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, what does that mean for him in terms of what do we expect from him? What do we expect from the quarterback position? And when you lose a guy like Bryce Young, obviously you're going to expect big things from the next guy. You expect him to step up and play to the level that Alabama is accustomed to. And Jalen Milroe isn't Bryce Young, but there's potential in his game that can make him a really exciting player. We saw the running ability last year. We saw the passing ability that needs to obviously take a step forward. He has to fend off Tyler Buchner and Ty Simpson. So there's still plenty that needs to be discovered, plenty that needs to be sorted out. But in Tommy Rees's system, I think that Jalen Milroe has the best chance to be a good player for what Alabama needs in 2023. A player that will help in that regard is Tyler Booker. Maybe he's too low on this list. Everything that I've heard about Tyler Booker is that he's a phenomenal talent who could be an all SEC type player, someone who could be maybe a potential All-American. He's a big dude at 335 pounds. And it's an Alabama offensive line that should be able to help the skill positions get to where they need to go. So that's something to keep an eye on. Another guy is JC Latham. JC Latham has played all over for Alabama, which is really exciting knowing you have some depth with one player on the offensive line. That's something that maybe you don't necessarily appreciate until you realize you need him. But JC Latham is another player who brings good size at 6'6", 335, someone who can be a factor, a force for Alabama. That's exactly what they need. And to get back to where they're going to go, you can't rely on the quarterback. And I think Alabama has a roster that does not need to rely on the quarterback. They can get the job done with everyone else. And that's going to be really exciting to watch if you're a Crimson Tide fan. So we look at what the defense can do to help in that regard. You look at Malachi Moore, a player that had NFL potential, still does, but I think that kind of dropped off a little bit last year. There were times where, you didn't necessarily feel that he was the player that he could be, but he comes back and has plenty of experience. He has plenty of talent to get back to where he needs to go. And it'd be interesting to see what he does in a secondary that loses a guy like Jordan Battle, but still should be one of the more exciting secondaries in college football. Speaking of that secondary, Terrion Arnold is a player who could have a big year and put himself into the first round of the NFL draft. I think a lot of people are already putting him there, and you can see in his game why he's considered that. With everyone paying attention to Kool-Aid McKinstry and teams probably avoiding that sign, Terrion Arnold gets a chance to prove that he's just as dangerous. Whether or not he's able to do that, we don't really know, but we know that he has the talent. We've seen what he can do. It's just a matter of what do teams do to test him? What will they provide? What will they present offensively that puts him in tougher positions? And how he responds to those tests is really going to dictate what Alabama can do defensively. Teams will want to throw, but they have the talent on defense for the Crimson Tide to be able to thwart those efforts. Chase McClellan gets a chance to take over for Jahmyr Gibbs, and while he will not be Jahmyr Gibbs, he will still be an exciting player to keep an eye on. 655 yards and 7 touchdowns as a backup. He is someone that I think can have a big year, and this rushing attack figures to play a more prominent role in Alabama's attack this year. It's just a matter of finding that go-to guy, and it feels like Chase McClellan can be that player for Alabama. Up front, is where I think Alabama is really fun to watch. We'll talk about a couple guys today. One of them is an underrated player in Jaheim Oatis, a player that does not get enough recognition, a player that flies under the radar in terms of college football fans in general. The casual college football fan probably doesn't know who Jaheim Oatis is. And obviously, he still needs to take a step forward. He needs to be more productive and a more regular contributor, but he has plenty of talent, plenty of skill, and plenty of power in his frame to be able to be a menace on the inside for Alabama up front. That's huge. Everybody knows what's going to happen on the edge and maybe at the linebacker position, but Jaheim Otis is a player who could become a household name by the end of the year. Going back to the offense, Ja'Cory Brooks comes into a season where he had a good year last year, and now they're hoping he can take a step forward and be even better. This is an Alabama team that a lot of people for a while now expected the wide receivers to just continue what they're doing. And when you look at the tradition of Alabama receivers, it's easy to see why. However, they just have not had the talent that they had in the past. That they have not had a Devontae Smith. They haven't had a Jerry Jeudy. They have guys with the potential to be that, but they just haven't seen it on the field. This is a big year for Alabama to prove that they can get back to the top of college football, that they can get to where they want to go, and the passing attack will help in that regard. Jalen Milroe obviously plays a huge role in that. If Ja'Cory Brooks has a big year, it's because Jalen Milroe figured out how to throw the football consistently, how to be accurate with the football, and that's really what's going to dictate this year for Alabama as a whole. The defense we talked about before, we talked about Kool-Aid McKinstry, and this is a team who could be a team that expects big things from him, and the future for him is very bright. This is a guy who could be a consensus first team All SEC. You could even see him being a first team consensus All-American. This is a talented player who has a bright future in the NFL as well. And he obviously has one of the best nicknames in college football. So this is a team that expects big things. It's not like that Alabama is just falling off the face of the earth. They just took a little bit of a step back and Georgia kind of took their place. Now, I know Alabama fans and players probably aren't ready to admit that Georgia is the team to beat because of the talent that they recruit. It's not that they did not fall off. It's just that Alabama has taken a little bit of a step back and Georgia has inserted themselves as the team to beat. Alabama has plenty of talent, though, to challenge them, to challenge that title, to challenge for the crown and get back to where everybody believes they can be. The last player that we'll talk about today is Dallas Turner, a potential All-American as well, a freak on the edge. And now he gets a chance to show that what he can do without Will Anderson. A lot of the attention went to Will Anderson last year. A lot of the attention, deservedly so, went to Will Anderson. But Dallas Turner is a guy who could benefit from more opportunities this year. And obviously, you look at what he will expect this year. What we will see a lot of extra attention sent his way. You'll see chips, you'll see double teams, and that means that other guys, like we mentioned, Jaheim Otis, you mentioned the linebackers before. There's players that will step up when Dallas Turner commands extra attention. To be able to affect that game doesn't show up in the box score, but it shows up on film, and his coaching staff will notice, and his teammates will notice when they are making plays because of him. Alabama, if you're looking at it, really exciting team. I believe Alabama has exactly what they need to make another run at a national championship. It's just a matter of finding those pieces and finding consistency. Obviously, the quarterback position will be scrutinized until they find a starter. And even then, if that starter is consistent. So this is a team that, once again, is under the spotlight and for good reason, but they have plenty of talent to get to where they want to go. They have plenty of talent to be a national championship contender. And I don't expect Nick Saban to stay down for too long because we just don't expect that from this dynasty. And Alabama, like I said, is recruiting at a high enough level where winning the SEC and winning national championships is still the standard that they want to meet.